At exactly $247,000 in net worth, Jennifer stopped packing lunch. It was not a conscious decision. She had been bringing the same turkey sandwich for 9 years, the entire time it took her to save that first $250,000. But something shifted. She felt legitimate, successful, like she had earned the right to buy lunch. Within 18 months, she was back under $200,000. She is not alone. The $250,000 mark is where most wealth building quietly dies. This is not speculation. Vanguard analyzed their retirement account data and found that 43% of people who reached $250,000 in account value saw that balance actually decrease over the next 5 years. The market did not crash during this period. Their income did not disappear. What changed was behavior. At the exact moment when compound growth should accelerate everything, people dismantle the system that got them there. The pattern is specific and repeatable. You spend 7 to 12 years building toward this number. You drive the old car, you skip the vacations, you watch friends upgrade their lives while you stay disciplined. Then you cross $250,000, and something in your brain whispers that the hard part is over. That whisper is expensive. For most people, it costs them the next decade. Understanding why this happens requires looking at what $250,000 actually represents. It is not wealthy. The median American household has $121,700 in net worth, according to the Federal Reserve. $250,000 puts you in the top 25% nationally, but you are nowhere near financial independence. You cannot retire on it. You cannot stop working. It will not generate meaningful passive income. What it does is create a dangerous psychological threshold. For the first time in your wealth-building journey, the number feels real. At $50,000 in net worth, you are still just getting started. The number feels abstract, far from anything meaningful. At $100,000, you have made real progress, but you can see how far you still need to go. At $250,000, your brain does something different. It completes a pattern. If you can get to $250,000, you can get to $500,000. And if you can get to $500,000, you are basically already successful. This premature mental completion triggers reward-seeking behavior before you have actually secured anything. The psychology here is specific. You start comparing yourself to different people. Before $250,000, you compared yourself to people with more, which kept you motivated. After $250,000, you compare yourself to people with less, which makes you feel successful. Your peer group shifts, even unconsciously. You are no longer the person grinding towards something. You are the person who made it happen. This identity shift changes everything. There is also the simple fact of delayed gratification fatigue. Research shows that willpower is a finite resource that depletes over time. Most people take 7 to 12 years to reach $250,000 in net worth. That is a decade of saying not yet to nearly everything. When the number finally looks real, the dam breaks. A study in the Journal of Consumer Research found that people who reach financial milestones increase discretionary spending by 23 to 31% in the following year. They are not being reckless, they are exhausted. Then there is what researchers call the competence trap. You got to $250,000 by making good decisions, so you trust your decisions now. The exact scrutiny that built wealth gets abandoned. You spent months researching used cars when you had $80,000 in net worth. Now you walk into a dealership and finance a $45,000 SUV in one afternoon. You feel competent, so you stop questioning yourself. This is when the mistakes happen. What actually destroys wealth at this level is not one dramatic decision. It is 20 small ones that feel completely justified. The mental accounting shifts from "do I need this" to "I can afford this." The spending pattern data is consistent across income levels. Someone hits $250,000 and within a year, housing goes from $1,400 a month to $2,800 a month because they deserve a real place now. Transportation goes from an $8,000 used car to a $35,000 reliable new car. Dining out goes from $200 a month to $600 a month because they have earned it. Subscriptions and services go from $100 a month to $400 a month because what is the point of money if you never enjoy it? Add it up. That is $1,800 a month in new expenses, $21,600 a year. If you were previously saving $25,000 a year, you are now saving $3,400 a year. You still feel like you are investing. Your retirement account still grows because of employer match and market returns, but your overall net worth stagnates. 3 years pass. 5 years, 7 years, you look up and you are at $280,000, not $500,000. The compound growth you imagined never materialized because the behavior changed. The second wealth destroyer activated at this level is the sophisticated investor phase. Index funds feel boring now. You want to optimize. You feel knowledgeable enough to get creative. This is when people start picking individual stocks because they understand the market now. They get into real estate investment before understanding cap rates, vacancy rates, and leverage. They allocate serious money to cryptocurrency because the fear of missing out is strongest when you have real money to invest. Alternative investments appear, sold by advisors who found you specifically because you hit a wealth threshold. The data on this is clear. The Dalbar study shows that individual investors underperform the market by 3 to 4% annually, primarily due to overconfidence after initial success. The people who reached $1 million in net worth and stayed there maintained simple, boring investment strategies. The people who reached $250,000 installed got creative. They traded more. They chased performance. They believed their early success meant they had skill rather than discipline. The third destroyer is rarely discussed but incredibly common. Helping family becomes expensive at this level. You are now the successful one in many family systems. You become visible in a way that drains resources, lending money that never comes back, co-signing loans, temporary help that becomes permanent. This is not about being selfish. It is about how success makes you a target for every family emergency, real or manufactured. Many people lose $30,000 to $60,000 over 3 to 5 years this way, without ever acknowledging it as wealth destruction. The cruel math of the plateau looks like this. You increase expenses by $21,600 a year when you hit $250,000. You were previously saving $25,000 a year. You are now saving $3,400 a year. Market returns average 7%, which is $17,500 a year on $250,000. But you are withdrawing or not contributing the difference. Your net worth essentially flatlines. Most people do not notice because their retirement account still grows thanks to employer match and market returns. They feel like they are still investing, but overall net worth stagnates. Time passes, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. They are at $280,000, not $500,000. The compound growth they imagined never materialized because the behavior changed. Here is the timeline reality. $0 to $250,000 takes 10 years of disciplined behavior. $250,000 to $500,000 should take 5 to 7 years at the same behavior, but it actually takes 12 to 15 years for most people, if they get there at all. Many never escape. They retire with $300,000 to $400,000. Wondering what happened? The answer is that they stopped doing what worked the moment it started working. Consider Marcus, a composite representing patterns seen across thousands of cases. 34 years old, $267,000 in net worth. He reached it after 11 years of aggressive saving. Software engineer, $145,000 in salary. Single, no kids. He drove a 2009 Honda, lived in a studio apartment, maxed out retirement accounts, brought a brown bag lunch every day, then he crossed $250,000. In year 1, he moved to a 1-bedroom apartment, adding $600 a month because he could afford his own bedroom now. He bought a 2021 Mazda, adding $520 a month in payments because he needed reliability. He started eating out for lunch, adding $15 a day on average because he had earned this. He upgraded his phone, laptop, and clothes to match his position. Total new expenses, $2,400 a month, $28,800 a year. His previous savings rate of $30,000 a year became $1,200 a year.
And year 2, he started dating seriously. Expensive restaurants to make good impressions, $400 a month. Gym membership upgrade to the nice gym, adding $90 a month.
Vacation to Europe, his first big trip ever, $4,500 because he had never traveled and deserved this. His brother needed help with rent twice, $3,000 total for family emergencies. He started trading individual stocks, convinced he could beat index funds. He lost $8,200 that year compared to index fund performance. Year 3, his net worth was $251,000. 3 years later, essentially no progress. He did not feel like he was living extravagantly. Every decision felt reasonable in isolation. But the machine that built wealth had been disassembled, one small choice at a time. The internal experience for someone like Marcus is specific. Confusion about why the number is not growing despite still investing. Defensiveness because he is not living some crazy lifestyle. Comparison to coworkers who spend way more. Rationalization that this is what money is for. What is the point otherwise? And creeping anxiety that he thought he would be further along by now. What Marcus lost was trajectory. If he had maintained his behavior, year 1 would have taken him from $267,000 to $305,000. Year 2 from 305,000 to 347,000. Year 3 from 347,000 to 393,000. His actual number was 251,000. He lost $142,000 in trajectory, which at compound rates represents years of his life. The psychological prison is that he cannot go back now. The studio apartment feels like failure. Selling the car feels like regression. Stopping the small luxuries feels like deprivation because they are now normal. He is trapped in a lifestyle that prevents the wealth he wanted the lifestyle for. The reason $250,000 is where wealth building dies is because it is the first time the wealth feels real enough to spend, but not real enough to live on. You are in the danger zone. Too much to feel poor, not enough to be safe. The human brain is terrible at this middle ground. We are wired for scarcity mode or abundance mode. The discipline required to stay in building mode when you have $250,000 goes against every psychological reward system we have. The people who make it to real wealth, the kind that actually changes your life, figured out one thing. $250,000 is not the finish line where you get to relax. It is the start of the race that actually matters. Everything before this was just qualifying. This reframe changes everything. If you understand that $0 to $250,000 was proving you could do it, then $250,000 to $1 million is actually doing it. The first phase built the system. The second phase is where the system pays off. But only if you keep the system running. What to do about this is specific, not generic. First is the lifestyle lock. When you hit $250,000 or any major milestone, lock your lifestyle expenses for 2 years minimum. Document your current spending the month you hit the milestone. That is your ceiling. Any raises, bonuses, windfalls go to saving and investing. Not forever, but long enough to get to $400,000. The math on this is clear. If you are saving $25,000 a year and earning 7% on $250,000, year 1 gets you to $292,500. Year 2 gets you to $338,175. 2 years of lifestyle lock gets you to $340,000. The psychological difference between $250,000 and $340,000 is massive. At $340,000, your defenses are back up. You are clearly on a path again. Second is the one-category reward system. Do not try to maintain perfect discipline across everything because you will fail. Choose one category to upgrade meaningfully. Maybe it is housing, maybe it is food, maybe it is travel. But only one. Everything else stays in building mode. This satisfies the psychological need for reward without destroying momentum. An example would be upgrading your apartment by $400 a month while keeping the old car, packing lunch, keeping the cheap phone, and shopping at the same stores. Net impact is $4,800 a year instead of $28,800 a year of lifestyle inflation. You get a tangible quality of life improvement, but you do not break the wealth building machine. Third is automating the next phase before you feel successful. The mistake is waiting until you hit $250,000 to decide what happens next. By then, the psychological shift has already occurred. Instead, at $200,000, set up automatic transfers that increase when you hit $250,000. Your future self, the one feeling successful and wanting to reward himself, does not get to make that decision. Your past self, the one still hungry, already made it. Fourth is redefining the milestone. $250,000 is not success. It is escape velocity. You have built enough momentum that compound growth can start doing real work, but only if you do not slow down. The actual milestone is different for everyone, but it is generally the number where you could survive 5 years without income. For most people, that is not $250,000. It is closer to $500,000 to $750,000. Redefining what success actually means prevents premature celebration. Fifth is tracking net worth monthly, not just account balances. Many people watch their retirement account grow and assume they are fine. They do not see that their car loan increased, their credit card balance crept up, or their home equity line got tapped. Net worth is assets minus liabilities. If you are not tracking total net worth monthly, you will not see the stall happening until years have passed. What makes this particularly important is that the window matters. The difference between reaching $1 million at 45 versus 55 is not just 10 years. It is the difference between financial independence being possible and spending your entire life working. Compound growth is exponential, but only over time. If you stall from 35 to 45, you lose the most valuable compounding decade you have. The people who break through are not smarter or more disciplined across their entire lives. They are people who recognized this specific danger zone and treated $250,000 differently than their brain wanted to treat it. They understood that the finish line feeling was a trap, that the real work was just beginning, that wealth is not built by getting to a number, it is built by staying in the behavior pattern long enough for math to take over. Jennifer, who we opened with, eventually figured this out. It took her 3 years of stalling at $200,000 before she recognized the pattern. She did not go back to the extreme frugality of her 20s. She did not move back to a worse apartment or sell her car at a loss. What she did was stop the expansion. She locked her lifestyle where it was and redirected everything else back to saving. It took her another 8 years to reach $750,000, but she got there because she treated $250,000 as the beginning, not the end. The $250,000 mark is where most wealth building dies because it is where your brain tells you that you won. The truth is that you just qualified for the race that determines the rest of your financial life. Everything you did to get there only matters if you keep doing it long enough to reach the number that actually changes things. $250,000 is not safety, it is not security, it is not the finish line. It is the most dangerous moment in your wealth building journey, specifically because it feels like success. Treat it that way, and you might actually make it to the number that matters.